The Centaur Dogman Pup. Dear Scary Stories NYC. As I was strolling through the woods, I caught a glimpse of something unusual out of the corner of my eye. There was movement behind a bush. Curious, I approached to take a closer look. To my amazement, I saw a young, upright, silver and white dogman puppy munching on that bush's berries. Now I've heard tales of dogman, but to see one up close was a completely different experience. I couldn't help but stare in wonder at this tiny creature with its soft fur and adorable puppy face. I thought about how much larger he might grow and wondered if he would be a 6-footer or one of those 12-footers. The thought of that sobered me up pretty quick as I looked around silently for the mama dogman. This one looked pretty young, and it seemed quite likely to me that it might still be under adult supervision. I decided I'd better back away from the scene, but I carelessly stepped on a loud snapping twig in the process. All of a sudden, the puppy peeked out from behind the bush and caught sight of me. Initially startled, it quickly regained its composure and trotted confidently toward me, tail wagging. As the younger dogman approached, I saw that it was no ordinary pup. As it drew closer, I noticed that its fur on top was silver, but its bottom was a rich warm brown. And that's when I noticed that rich warm brown bottom had 4 legs. I had never seen anything quite like this before. I wondered how this dogman could be so unique and special. I was amazed at the difference between what I had imagined his body looked like as opposed to how it actually looked, and I could hardly believe my eyes. It was a young dogman pup who appeared to be a Centaur Dogman with 4 legs on the ground and 2 paws free to use for other things. I couldn't help but stop in my tracks and watch as he pranced around the clearing. I reached out a tentative hand toward the pup, and I was pleased as it sniffed and then nuzzled against my fingers. It was a moment I will never forget, and I feel privileged to have met such a remarkable creature. As I walked away from the pup, I couldn't help but smile, knowing that I was experiencing something truly special. The pup had the head of a dog and a torso sort of like a human, but of course covered in soft fur. His legs were sturdy and muscular, ending in very large paws that allowed him to run and play with ease. As I approached him cautiously, the pup looked up at me with his big brown eyes and wagged his bushy tail. My first experience with that dogman pup was peaceful and gentle. He appeared to be happy and carefree, chasing his tail and frolicking through the forest. I remember feeling a sense of awe and wonder, as if I were experiencing something truly magical. Sometimes when I tell people this story, they stare at me blankly, and then I realize that the word centaur isn't exactly one that's used by everyone every day. So to give you some perspective on how surprised I was by what I was seeing and petting, you should probably first know what a centaur is. A centaur is a creature from Greek mythology that has the upper body of a human and the lower body of a horse. They are typically depicted as wild and barbaric, wielding bows and arrows, and engaging in battles or other violent activities. They were seen as a symbol of the duality between civilization and nature, with their half-human, half-horse form representing the struggle between man's rational mind and his primal instincts. Centaur mythology figures prominently in many Greek legends and myths. One of the most well-known stories involving centaurs is that of the wedding of Pirithous, a human king, and Hippodamia, a daughter of Zeus. During the wedding feast, the centaurs became drunk and unruly, attempting to abduct the bride and inciting a violent skirmish. This story is often used to symbolize the tension between civilization and savagery, as well as the dangers of excessive drink and debauchery. Another famous centaur legend is that of Chiron, one of the few peaceful and wise centaurs. According to the myth, Chiron was a revered teacher and healer who mentored many famous Greek heroes, including Achilles and Jason. However, he was eventually struck with a poison arrow and could not heal himself, leading him to sacrifice his immortality in exchange for the release of Prometheus, a titan who had been punished by Zeus. Despite their enduring popularity in Greek mythology, there is no real evidence to suggest that centaurs ever existed. The idea of a creature with the body of a horse and the intelligence and personality of a human seems to be purely fictional and cannot be reconciled with our current understanding of biology and evolution. Nonetheless, the image of the centaur has captivated the imaginations of people for centuries and remains a beloved figure in mythology and fantasy literature. So now you know what a centaur is. Now imagine that, but smaller, cuter, and canine, and you should get the picture. After my initial sighting, I made it a point to keep an eye out for the Dogman pup whenever I was in the woods. You would have too. On my second sighting, I came across him playing with a group of squirrels. They seemed to be his friends, and he was content to chase them around without causing them any harm. This got me to wondering what the Dogman pup was eating, if he made friends with his potential prey. The third time I saw the Dogman pup, I noticed that he had grown stronger and more agile. He was now able to climb trees like a squirrel and jump over logs and other obstacles with ease, using his powerful legs and paws to propel himself effortlessly. As for his parents, I could only speculate as to where they might be. I always looked around for them, but I never saw any other dogmen with him ever. I suppose it's possible that they were keeping a watchful eye on him from a distance, allowing him to explore the world on his own. Or perhaps they had abandoned him altogether, leaving him to fend for himself in the wild. Whatever the case, I felt grateful to have had the chance to witness such a remarkable creature, and I vowed to always keep an eye out for him in the future. I got in the habit of making bologna sandwiches and bringing them with me on my walks. It was mainly supposed to be for the Dogman Centaur, but I didn't see him for a while, so I developed a taste for plain bologna on white bread. Then one sunny day, in a meadow, under the tranquil blue sky, I noticed a cute and fuzzy creature playing joyfully. As I approached this creature, I noticed it to be the Centaur Dogman puppy, and I grew excited. His body below the waist was that of a cute little puppy that wagged its tail in excitement. The puppy's hindquarters had a short, caramel-colored fur with a swishy tail. He was happily galloping around, stopping every now and then to sniff at the flowers in the field. The puppy's muscular arms and paws were covered in thick silver fur, while his head was similar to that of a silver German shepherd, sporting cute ears and a long snout. With an adorable gaze, he looked straight at me, seeming to be delighted and inviting me to play with him. The puppy was blissfully frolicking around in the meadow, wagging its tail and sniffing at everything that caught its interest. It was eagerly waiting for me to engage in playful activity, and I felt myself drawn to the creature's friendly and happy nature. Seeing a Centaur Dogman puppy was a truly unique and unforgettable experience. I tossed him some of a bologna sandwich, and he caught it in his mouth. I repeated the effort, and so did he, until he had scarfed the entire thing down. I felt better knowing that he had gotten a little protein inside of him, even if he did make friends with all the small game. I began to seriously think that maybe I should bring him home. As I pondered the idea, I couldn't help but think that something was missing from my life. I craved companionship, but the thought of taking care of another living being was a daunting one. I had never owned a pet before, even a normal one. So obviously the idea of taking in a feral cryptid seemed like a huge responsibility. But after careful consideration, I realized that the pros of bringing the Centaur Dogman pup home far outweigh the cons. On one hand, owning a pet brings immense joy and companionship. They become like family members, but in a good way. And the bond that we share with them is unique and unbreakable. A pet can provide us with unconditional love and support in both good times and bad. They are our loyal companions and can even improve our physical and mental health. Studies have shown that pet owners have lower blood pressure and experience less stress and anxiety. However, sharing your home with a wild baby cryptid comes with its fair share of cons, too. Taking care of it can be a handful. It requires patience and dedication, as they need to be trained and kept away from people. Owning a cryptid also means additional expenses such as food, and you need to find a veterinarian who won't report you to the feds. It can also limit your freedom as you have to be responsible for their needs at all times, unless you want them killing the neighbor's pets for food, or the neighbors. When deciding whether to take in an untrained Centaur Dogman as a pet, I think there are a few important factors to consider. First and foremost, you need to ensure that you have the time and resources to take care of them properly. This includes providing a safe and comfortable living environment, regular meals and exercise, and medical care when needed. You should also consider your lifestyle and whether owning a feral six-legged dog monster is feasible for you. Some pets require more time and attention than others. Ultimately, the decision to take in a feral, untrained cryptid is a personal one. It's important to consider all the pros and cons and weigh them against your personal circumstances. While it may seem daunting at first, the reward of a loyal companion outweighs many challenges. For me, taking in an untrained pet was the best decision I ever made. The love and joy that they brought to my life was priceless. So for me personally, when I added up one side, it outweighed the other by a whole lot. I never thought I would be the type of person to take in a wild animal, let alone a six-legged dogman. But when I saw that cute little centaur pup frolicking around in the field, I couldn't help myself. I knew it was going to be a challenge, but I was up for it. I broke up pieces of bologna and tossed them behind me, ensuring the little monster would follow me home. As I led the puppy back to my house, I made note of the fact that its behavior was very similar to that of a regular dog. It wagged its tail excitedly, jumped up on me for attention, and licked my face lovingly. I had a new furry friend, but with a unique twist, as this puppy could stand on four legs and still use his front arms. Over the next few weeks, I learned that the puppy was also like a horse in several unexpected ways. It had a powerful gait when running, was able to kick with impressive force, and enjoyed eating from a feeding trough. It was fascinating to watch the puppy move and interact with me and the environment in ways that no other animal could. However, what was most interesting to me were the ways in which the puppy was like a human child. It had an incredibly inquisitive nature and loved exploring its surroundings, constantly asking silent questions with its big expressive eyes. It was like having a little person in the house. The puppy was also incredibly emotional and showed us happiness in ways that should be familiar to most people who've ever had a pet. It wasn't always easy. The puppy was a handful and required a lot of attention, love, and patience. However, with each passing day, I grew more and more attached to this incredible little guy. It was a never-ending experience of amusement and discovery, and the puppy never failed to amaze me with its unique personality. That Centaur Dogman puppy was like a dog in its loving and social behavior, but was like a horse in its impressive physical strength and agility, but also like a human child in its inquisitive emotional nature and need for care and attention. It was a journey, but one that I'm extremely grateful to have taken. One summer day, I decided to take the puppy and my neighbor's pony out for a run in the fields to burn off some energy. As soon as the puppy caught sight of that pony, it let out a happy bark and began to gallop toward it. At first I was slightly worried, as the puppy was much smaller than the pony, and I didn't want it to get hurt. However, that puppy was quick and nimble, and seemed to thrive on the competition. They started off slowly, circling each other, before breaking out into a run. The puppy managed to keep up with that pony, using its powerful hind legs to leap forward at a great speed. Its arms flailed excitedly as it sprinted alongside the larger equine. It was an impressive sight to behold. A wild Dogman Centaur puppy racing a pony, their manes and fur flying in the wind, with the sun reflecting off their shiny coats. The puppy was fearless, darting in and out of the pony's path with jaw-dropping agility. For a few moments they were neck and neck, but eventually, the sheer power and size of the pony took over, and it bolted ahead, leaving that puppy playing catch-up. Despite not winning the race, the puppy was overjoyed with the experience, wagging its tail furiously, panting excitedly, and barking playfully at that pony. It was amazing to see how much enjoyment and satisfaction these animals could derive from something as simple as a run through the meadows. After they had settled down, the puppy came bounding over to me, tongue lolling out of its mouth, happy and tired. It was another unforgettable experience, and one of many exciting times that I spent with this extraordinary creature. As the puppy grew bigger and stronger, I realized it was time to build a stable for it to rest in at night. I knew a regular doghouse would not be sufficient for this unique animal, so I set to work constructing a wooden stable with a fenced yard for it to play in while I was at work or away. The stable was sturdy, spacious, and had everything the puppy could need to be happy and comfortable. It had a feeding trough, a water barrel, and a soft bed filled with hay. I spent a whole weekend building this stable, and I was proud of how it turned out. However, as soon as I introduced the puppy to its new home, it became apparent that he did not like it there. Despite the comfortable bed and the numerous toys, it was clear he preferred staying by my side, inside my house. One night the puppy's discontent reached a peak. I had retired to bed, and I thought the puppy had settled in its new stable. But it wasn't long before those thoughts were interrupted by loud galloping sounds. It was the puppy who had broken out of its stable and was now running around my house. I rushed outside, only to find that the strong and determined puppy had already completely trashed that stable. As I examined the destruction, I looked up to see the puppy with its arms crossed, standing with pride and stubbornness. It was then that I realized that it was really like a human child. The puppy wanted to be indoors, which was something I had not anticipated. It was clear my construction skills were good, but my forward thinking and planning needed improvement, at least when it came to this special little guy. From then on, the stable remained empty, and the puppy stayed indoors with me at night. It was a minor adjustment for me, but after all, the puppy had brought so much joy and happiness into my life. I was eager to accommodate his wishes and create a space that he felt safe and comfortable in. There was a small price to pay for having such an extraordinary companion by my side. I kept the puppy on my property at all times, hiding him from the public, because I wasn't sure it was legal to even own him. I didn't know if his odd body type would help or hurt him in the wild, and I just wanted to make sure he got to live a full life. I didn't want him to be exploited as a freak in show business or anything like that. So I figured he was better off living in secret with me than with anyone who would treat him like a meal ticket. I tried to treat him as my friend, and that is what I thought he had become. But a dogman is still a wild animal, not a house pet, and that's even more true for a Centaur Dogman. As this pup grew, that became more apparent and impossible to ignore. Time went on, and it really sunk in that my little Centaur pup was not exactly a normal dog. He was getting bigger and stronger, with an agility and energy that seemed almost otherworldly. Sometimes he would disappear for hours, running through the woods or chasing after some scent that only he could smell. And sometimes when he came back, he would be covered in dirt and blood, his fur matted and tangled. At first I didn't mind, though. I thought it was just part of his wild nature, and I loved him all the same. But as he grew older, things started to change. He became more aggressive, snarling and growling at strangers who came to the door, or barking ferociously at the same squirrels and birds that used to be his playmates in his youth. It got to the point where he would become aggressive with me, and look at me with eyes that were no longer friendly. I began to fear for my own safety around my own beloved friend. It broke my heart, but I knew that I could not keep the Centaur Dogman any longer. And so, with a heavy heart, I made the decision to let him go. I found a wildlife sanctuary that specialized in caring for dogmen, and I decided to bring him there. He had always loved riding in the car with me before, but this time he just stood there looking at me, with eyes filled with suspicion and disappointment. As I tried to get him into the back seat, he bolted and ran for the woods. He didn't look back, and I haven't seen him again. I think I cried for 10 days. My Centaur Dogman is still wild and untamed, but now he is happy and free. He runs through the woods, no doubt, chasing after prey and howling at the moon. And I know that, even though I can no longer hold him in my arms, I will always have a place in my heart for the Centaur Dogman. He's a nice guy, not a scutch. I'm talking about our EP Butch. Please join me in thanking Butch Rudrick for making this episode possible. Butch donated to us using our handy dandy thanks button, sending us a super thanks. He also donates in other ways and gets perks for it. You can too. And here comes our international TV spokesmongrel, Henry Lee Dogman, to fill in the deets. Hank? Thanks, Biggie. And thanks to all of you for watching this far. If you liked it, please click like. If you'd like to see more of our work, please subscribe. And also click that bell icon if you'd like to be notified when we put out a new episode. To become an executive producer, you can donate to us through the thanks button under each of our videos or through our paypal.me/PeterBernard209 page. To receive cool perks like secret uncensored Dogman episodes far too wild to ever run on this channel, you can become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button, or join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. Joining either at the $3 a month level or above gets you access to our over 25 hours of secret uncensored Dogman stories available nowhere else. Do you have a scary story about Dogman or some other kind of high strangeness that happened to you? Let us know by emailing us at scarystoriesnyc@gmail.com or by leaving us a voicemail message at 804-LA-SCARY. You may need to call back on that one. It cuts off after, I think, 3 minutes. And if you don't want to do any of that stuff, thank you for simply watching to the end. Good night, and have a scary tomorrow.
Come back for more scary stories.